Hello and welcome everyone to the first ever Conclave podcast. I'm Quipster, I'll be the host for tonight, and with me I've got Big Dick Rich, otherwise known as Rezza to his friends, Sandman, and Adam, our legal department.
Hello.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Good, thanks for the introduction.
Right. just so we're clear, right up till that point, I wasn't sure we were actually going to go with Big Dick Rich.
Just to be clear, I haven't signed off on this.
We need a HR department.
I'm not dealing with that.
So, that's a really good place to start. Big Dick Rich, how did you get that nickname?
Well, someone you might know, if we're going to name drop, we're playing Call of Duty with a guy called Winters. I don't know if you know him, Alex.
Wait, hang on a sec. Do you mean to say that you know the Winters SEO?
Yeah. I wonder how I met him, but we'll get to that bit later. So playing Call of Duty, and I think I had a decent game. And I think he had a few beers that day, or that evening. And introduce yourself as Richard21, you're going to get called Dick. And then as the game went on, I played really well, kind of carried everybody in my team, including you. And then he upgraded me to Big Dick Rich as we came second. Didn't quite get the first. God knows what he would have called me if we got first.
Extreme Dick Rich.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, because obviously this is an audible medium rather than visual. Rich is actually now modelling himself on Winters and constantly travels around in a flat cap. So
I'm bored. I need to keep my head warm.
Excellent. So the first thing we're going to look at tonight is the hobby progress that we've made. Basically, I was thinking throughout lockdown. So you know what, Ed? Do you want to start? Or the Sandman? I'm gonna really fuck up all these nicknames all the time, but we're gonna make this work.
That's all right. I didn't have high hopes. So I started a whole army in lockdown. So that's so I started Genestealer Cults at the start of 9th, which I absolutely love. And I tell you, one of the reasons I started them was because I had kind of come up with an army that wasn't going to be that expensive pound-wise to buy. Then I started buying them, and now I've spent way more than I thought I would. They're just such a fun army. They're just ridiculously fun. I've kind of painted everything to kind of like a tabletop standard, and then going up from there. So I haven't actually got much that I would say is actually finished, but playable about half, I would say, so far.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I look at your army, and I'm just like, you know when you look at someone's army, and you're just like, that's a cool army, but the way you themed it really makes it stand out. That's how I feel about your Genestealer Cult.
Yeah. So the theme for my Genestealer Cults is kind of like it's farming. So they come from like an angry world instead of an angry world. They are
very angry.
It is a very angry world. But instead of like a kind of a classic mining world, which is incredibly fun because it actually fits really well. There's actually a lot of flat caps involved in my Genestealer Cult army, Rich.
You're actually green stuffing like all of them.
Yeah. So I green stuffed a load of hats involved. The bases are all like it's cost me a lot of money in sterling mud, but it's all like ploughed fields, and then I've made a load of hay bales. I fell into a bit of a hole where I started watching loads of like model railway videos, and then I found one for hay bales, which is just incredible. So I'm making loads of hay bales at the moment, which I'm just going to dot around the army, there's a couple of other just little touches to just kind of like show that they're farmers, they're just so it's definitely the most personal army I have.
So that's a funny thing. You showed me that that YouTube tutorial for the hay bales. It's an amazingly well-produced video, but okay, explain what it takes to make one of those.
Well, it's not the most complicated thing. Essentially, it's you get some balsa wood and you cover it with some flock, and then you have to use like a spray glue instead of a PVA because or else it won't really stick properly. And then you just kind of like do string for the actual twine on the hay bales. Which is what the most amazing thing is the guy that makes that video. I've forgotten his name. I'm really sorry if he's watching. He has 1 million subscribers.
That blew my mind.
I was like,
And also,
that makes me so happy that exists. Like,
If he's watching, we've done something right.
yeah. Like, you know what's funny as well? He didn't have that many videos. He
it's
had
like 80, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It was like one a week for like a couple of years.
Yeah.
And he had 1 million subscribers.
Well, if you want hay bales, you know where to go.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But see, that's the thing as well. He managed to stretch out that tutorial into 10 minutes.
How dare you? Every second of that tutorial is an absolute treasure. Yeah, take offense to that. So yeah, Genestealer Cults. That's how I'm doing. That's how I'm doing my lockdown, and I'm loving every second.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie though. You should. So throughout lockdown, we were all on an app called House Party, and having painting sessions and stuff together. So obviously, sometimes you hold up all your paintings to the camera, and I'm not gonna lie, your patriarch is the fucking ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
He looks like an angry potato on the farm theme.
So I got a second patriarch because that was kind of for a bit more of a competitive attempt at Genestealer Cults, and so I kind of didn't want to just do another generic patriarch, because you have to buy it in the brew coven box. You actually have to buy another Primus, another Magus, but also there are like kind of the OOP out of production. Sorry for those that,
Those of us that aren't in the know.
Don't
are cool enough to know these things.
know the lingo. Out of production patriarchs, and there's actually two. There is one incredibly cool model, and there's a good chance you'll have seen it. It is a patriarch, and he's from like the 90s, and he's sitting in a chair. There's actually a Magus by him. He looks absolutely badass. That's not the one I have.
He also does look a little bit like he's using the toilet, let's be fair.
I've not seen this.
Mate, when the Tyranids get here, mate,
We'll all be on the toilet.
That reminds me. Have you guys seen the really old school Marnius Calgar?
Yeah,
it's in the chair.
Yeah, so I think I get the feeling that GW used the same sort of mold or sculpt for this,
Right.
because it's almost the same
what happened
pose.
is they copied the patriarch for the Marnius Calgar.
They just had a lot of spare chairs in the
factory. You've got it the
factory.
wrong way around, Adam. That's completely wrong. So yeah, I don't have that one, the really cool one. So because they go for a lot on the internet. They're like 60 quid a pop. And so I found one for 10 quid, and it is the most beautifully hideous model you've ever seen. It's he does look like a potato. He doesn't really look like a Genestealer at all. I just love him so much.
But let's be clear. When we say he looks like a potato, when you get a new potato and it sort of falls out of the bag and it ends up at the back of the cupboard, and then when you sort of clean out the cupboard or you move house or something, you just find this shriveled monstrosity. That's what we're talking here. I mean, he's still beautiful.
He's painted very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, Genestealer Cults seem like one of those armies that are just built for contrast.
Yeah, I mean, I think the body standards that are set by Space Marines in the Imperium
They're realistic.
you and all your fancy organs, they're ridiculous. So yeah.
Have you named
they
the
are
model?
a bit of contrast. I tell you what, I don't know if this is weird, because I said this to you once and you looked at me like I insulted your mother or something. But like, I love using contrast paint on metal models.
No, it wasn't the fact that you were using contrast paint on metal models. You said, I like painting metal models, and I was just like, you're wrong.
Well, yeah, that's because I'm a terrible painter, and so I only use contrast paint. That is why. But yeah, so yeah, they do work really well. I think the Genestealer Cult models are, if you are an incredibly good painter, there is so much opportunity there for detail. Every single model has a multitude of buttons on them, and vents and pipes, and different layers of clothing. If you just want to do something simple, that also works really, really well. And I think, for me, because I don't really I don't hate painting. I've come to like it a lot more because it's not the thing that kind of drives me in the hobby. I do actually really like just the little bits of modelling. Like I said, like the railway stuff. Like if I can get the painting done quicker, it gives me more time to do things with green stuff and do things with plastic art and make like the farming equipment and do things with the hay, the flock and make the hay bales. Because or else doing all of those on top of spending a lot of time painting will just mean I'm spending ages on this army, and I kind of just want to get it ready at this stage. They are so fun to play. They're so fun to play.
Well, we'll get back to that in games played. But okay, should we move on to Big Dick Rich? How's lockdown for you and your hobby progress?
So I guess I started another army as well. So I kind of started my own custom Marine chapter.
Really mixed up there, mate. I was really impressed.
Yeah. So gone from having an Ultramarine army to now having my own Blood Angel successors. But to be fair,
really pushing the boat out there.
Yeah. No, but I read some. The Ultramarine started a hobby, probably almost a year ago now, and the one everybody starts off with is the poster boys. And then I read a couple books. Devastation of Bale, and then I read the Dante books.
So good.
Kind of fell in love a bit with the Blood Angels and thought I want a bit of this, and then kind of went from there. So I don't know how many points I've got painted now. Probably nearly 3,500 points worth I've done over lockdown.
And it's just all eradicators.
Yeah, it's a lot of eradicators for my Blood Angels. No, it's a lot. It's a lot of assault intercessors probably.
What do you mean probably? You should know.
So, I've got 25 assault intercessors done, a few impulses. I'm in love with the Blade Guard veterans.
Oh, they're so good. Not against custodies, but they're otherwise quite good.
Yeah. But I rolled horribly against you.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, just to be clear, we were on house party the other night, and we were talking about sort of predictions for how we think things are going to go, and Richard is very excited about the possibility of unit size. I've never seen anyone so keen to work out whether he can have a certain number of Blade Guard veterans in a squad. But it's like watching a kid on Christmas morning. It's beautiful in its own way.
Yeah. What do you mean I can take 10?
Oh God, don't get me started. But yeah, so that's kind of my hobby progress, and I've definitely learned how to paint a lot better with this army. I feel a bit with the Ultramarines when I used to have on the table, I was almost like a bit embarrassed that they were mine. With this one, I'm actually kind of proud of playing with them. Sounds weird, but yeah, I've definitely learned a lot. So yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, I think it was yesterday we were talking about how you've done something interesting with contrast paints to get your red. Like what was it that you did?
Yeah, so the scheme of my guys is like a dark grey with kind of a burgundy dark red arms. So I prime them with Mechanicus standard grey, put just flesh tones red in their arms, and then I do a non-oil wash over it, and it gets like a really dark, dark red, kind of a bit dirty.
Right, I remember we were talking about yesterday. It was like someone came up to you and like.
Yeah. So I've never had this before. So I came up to me and goes, "So how did you get that red on your Marines?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I could talk you through this process."
Oh my God,
I'm so proud.
Man, this is so cool.
Yeah, and then it turns out it's just like, you just keep painting over it. Nothing complicated. Yeah.
I genuinely love when that happens. Like, well, okay, I say this. I'm in two minds about this. It's really like a massive compliment when someone comes up to you and they're like, "Oh my God, how did you paint this?"
Yeah,
but I get. But literally, with me, it's the same two fucking questions every single time. How do you do your yellow? How do you do your gems? I'm just like, fucking look at the comment above you. Like,
people in this room haven't asked that question at all. That's never been asked.
I don't think I've ever.
No, I thought Winters did it for you, to be honest. So.
Didn't see studios pay your custodians.
Oh my God, don't even. People will believe that shit.
Yeah. No, to be fair, a lot of my painting I've learned. I don't want to big you up, but you have helped me taught me quite a bit. So.
Well, you know me, I'm not one to brag.
No. But then I met Charles and everything, and it's just gone from a completely different level. I've actually never asked him for advice. I'm just giving him again.
Oh, excellent. So yeah, let's move on to the legal department.
So I am a bit of a hobby butterfly, to say the least. Yeah, I'm going to get some stick for this. So I have carried on over lockdown doing 2.5 armies, and I sort of got another one that I'm planning to put together.
What are the two armies?
So the army, so the Sisters of Battle were the first one. So I was lucky enough to get the box last year, and I think a bit like Ed with the Genestealer Cults, I absolutely love the Sisters in terms of how they play. They're very complicated. There's sort of lots of layers of rules, and again, similarly with the models, I do them pretty much all in contrast with a little bit of additional sort of old school, I guess is what you call it, layering and highlighting, etc. But mostly contrast. But they're very complicated, full of detail, and their rules are pretty similar, to be honest. But I love their ability to surprise people, because if you know anything about the Sisters of Battle, they are toughness 3 models. They're basically an Imperial Guardsman in some ways. Obviously, they have power armor, so three up save. Ed's laughing his head off. But on paper, you come up against.
You know those guardsmen that are tough, that are 3 up save and ignore AP minus 1 and 2.
Hang on.
What's their ballistic skill?
3.
Oh,
so
not like
they come up.
at all.
It's not just Adam. People do like Jukari players are always like, our stuff is made of paper. It's like, I don't have an invuln. I don't have a single 3-up save in my army.
So they are not made of paper at all. They're quite tough. But what I mean is, right? What I mean is, you come up against your average Space Marine player. They look at them on paper and they go, okay, well they're going to be easy to kill, right? They're going to be relatively easy to get rid of, and they're not. They've got lots of little tricks. They can do lots of things with overlapping buffs. They can do lots of things with interesting units that just have quite funky rules depending on what happens. There's lots of cool stratagems with them. So again, I think it's a little bit like the Genestealer Cults in that they do have all of these overlapping rules you need to learn to play them effectively, and that's just really fun. So that's the main one. As I say, probably started that pre-lockdown, but have worked on that through lockdown because of we've a couple of us have got into Crusade through the London Wargaming Guild, which I think we'll come on to later. And also, I guess the other ones, I was lucky enough that last year when the Black Library book came out, a colleague at work actually got me Valerian and Alea. And because I'm a moron, I thought, oh, okay, well now I have to start a Custodes army. So I had a unit of Custodian Guard painted up, and I've just been working on a sort of small force of those. And what Ed is about to do now is lean into the microphone and tell you about my overpowered Telemon Dreadnought that I put together.
I was going to make the joke that now you have 2,000 points, but someone had to do it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, small force.
Do you know what?
Telemon in it.
Do you know what? Unfortunately, I probably have about just under 1,500. Painted up and built, and then the other one really is just I've had, again, much like Rich, I got into the hobby probably just over
2 years
probably about 2 years. So my first sort of set was Dark Imperium. So I've got Marines and Death Guard. So I've been working away at getting what's left of my Death Guard that are sort of built and partly painted finished, because again, contrast is wonderful for Death Guard because they just look horrible and gribbly and dirty and have tentacles everywhere and sort of maggots pouring out to them, which look really good with a little bit of contrast on them as well.
I think that's so true. It's interesting because you've out of all of us got probably the most armies. So
yeah.
Out of all of us, more than all of us
combined. So first it was Death Guard, right?
Yeah. Death Guard, Marines.
Hang on. I think it was first Death Guard, then a bit of Marines, but you were focusing on Eldar when Eldar was really good.
So I had some Eldar from. So I had them from in around 2018. So I've got about 1,000 points of those.
Okay.
And then I've got some Tau as well. Because the battle suits. Because actually my first army, or one of my first armies I ever had back when I was about 10. So like many people, just do a bit of background, and I think it's the same for everyone in the room. Like many people, I got into the hobby when I was a kid, played it for a while, got older, discovered that girls exist and there's a world out there of like not going to Games Workshop and playing around with little painted models, and gave it up. And subsequently, being an adult with a job that's quite stressful, my other half I think made what she now regards as a massive error of saying, have you ever thought about getting back into that hobby? Because, you did all this painting stuff. It's quite relaxing. It's a way to take a break from work. And now here we are with about 7 armies on the go. And I had some Tau from back when I was a kid. So I sort of stripped some of those, repainted them, and then sort of added to that. So I've got some Tau as well. So I mean, to the handy thing is they're all gonna take the mick out of me for this, but when it comes as a resource for other people, you would never do that. As a resource for other people, I'm happy for you to use whatever sort of bits I've got. Although I say that we do have a friend who has 8,000 or 12,000 points of Eldar.
God, yeah, I think it's about 8,000 points.
I think he probably has the most models of all of us. Even with all of my stuff, I probably don't have as much as him.
I don't know. I think I'm giving him a bit of a run for his money.
Oh yeah.
I have about 12,000 points of Tau and 10,000 points of Dark Angels.
Oh,
yeah, really?
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know you had 10,000
the Dark
points.
Well, with the new points. It was 8,000.
I mean, still. Damn, that's impressive.
I reckon I've got probably about 5,000 to 6,000 points of Ultramarines. I don't even been in the hobby a year yet, but I mean, quite a bit. That's probably just Gullivan.
Yeah. But I mean, the sort of the nascent thing I'm thinking about at the moment is I've got some Chaos Marines lying about. Again, some of them from when I was about 10 that are all painted as, I think, red Corsairs. They're like red, black, and gold. They're really. I mean, I was about 10. God knows what I was doing. They're like the painting on them is terrible. But I'm gonna strip some of those off and maybe try out some sort of Emperor's Children type thing, just because they're quite fun. Fulgrim's a good book. So
the question probably be, what factions don't you have?
Yeah.
Or don't you have plans for?
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? Because everyone does the hobby in their own ways, and that's actually quite common. Like, you meet quite a lot of people that just. And you do this, I think, where like people do 2,000 points of an army and then move on.
I mean, prime example of that is Say Hi Paul.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Whereas I'm like the opposite. Like I say, I just have a massive quantity of Dark Angels and Tau, and like I won't move on from GSC probably till I reach a similar figure, to be honest, because I just get very obsessive over my.
You start to like to have the options, like play things a bit different.
You know what? That's what it is. And to be fair, because of the way, like, I generally prefer competitive play, so and because of the way, even if like the meta doesn't swing hard, it's always nice to try different things, and you really can't try things without the models. Like, you can't just be, all right, I'm going to see how 6 Piranhas does today. It's so everything does come back around again. I think because we will be in the hobby for like years and years. Yeah. It is actually, even though it seems like a lot of money, it'll probably. I mean, it is a lot of money, but like we'll probably use it quite a lot over our lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean,
until it's Legends.
Well, my God. I mean, this is the thing that I think about a lot with my Custodes. Quickly moving on to my hobby progress.
Should we ask it? So, what's your hobby progress?
You started Custodes for 9th edition, didn't you?
I hate you.
Once you saw the new.
And at the rate you've painted one model so far.
Oh my God! So I'm renowned in our hobby group for having just being the slowest at painting. But so like over lockdown, I realized I'd played for basically the whole of 8th with 1,500 points because I spent basically the whole of 8th painting my friend Will's entire Eldari army, which was 4,000 points, and I thought it was only 2,000, and it turned into a year-long project.
I really love you, Alex. You treat your friends very well.
Well, to be fair, it's just because like I was a groomsman at Will's wedding, and I didn't. Well, I've got a bit of a reputation among our friends from back home for being, I'm not going to say late.
Cunt. Oh, sorry.
Both of those things.
Well, let's just say for my friend Dom's wedding, I was exactly on time, to the point where like I walked in and took my seat, and then she walked down the aisle. So I'm going to say I was exactly on time.
I think I was right with my description.
So bad. That's awful. That must have been confusing for you and the guests when the wedding march started and you appeared.
You can't even say you were hungover because
I didn't drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was quite bad. And I think that's one of the reasons I was a groomsman at Will's wedding, because we all stayed at his the night before. So he was like, I'm taking you. You can't be late.
He just wanted a free painting commission.
Yeah. So it's just a reference. So if we want you to paint our armies, we just got to make you a groomsman.
Yeah. I just got to get married.
It's only a small commitment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. But yeah, so I spent a whole year painting 4,000 points of Eldar, And since lockdown, I finally managed to like start painting my own stuff. And I think in total, I probably painted about maybe 12 models, which for me is a big deal.
Yeah, if you're a fan of Alarus Custodian Terminators, check out Alex's Instagram, because it's mostly Alarus Terminators.
There's a couple pictures on there.
yeah, just a few.
Yeah.
But
They are beautiful, in all fairness.
They
In
look
all
amazing.
honesty, not to sort of blow smoke up your bum, they are very, very good. They are absolutely gorgeous.
You're also a like whore as well.
Oh my god, yes.
So,
So much so.
Tol
the
Garadon's
comments I
chin's
get.
been on it a few times as well.
yeah.
Which one?
Tol Garadon's chin.
Oh yeah, a few times. But I was going to say, like, Ed, I will never stop using the Dark Angels tag for all my stuff.
Yeah, so by way of background, there's a bit of an issue, shall we say, where
Rift.
Alex has a habit of just tagging any old tag in his big list of social media hashtags, and Ed, being our resident Dark Angels, the inner circle itself, he gets stuck on this.
So I think Dark Angels players will know my frustration with the Dark Angels hashtag generally, which is that the Dark Angels hashtag on Instagram or Twitter is used for two purposes. One is Dark Angels models, and the second is goth girls who post pictures in revealing clothing. Yeah. And they will
Hashtag Dark Angel.
and they call themselves hashtag Dark Angels. And what
What got you into the Dark Angels?
So after I'd blocked all of the Warhammer, I was in a pretty good position, and then Alex's face just popped up. I was like, "Why is he here?" Like, not even a model, just his face, and it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
You've come up on a Tau hashtag as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I come up in the Tau hashtag, the Dark Angel hashtag. Oh, Eldari. I get the Eldari hashtag a lot, and Charles complains about that one.
God.
I make no apologies for my behaviour.
Yeah.
I will riot if you turn up in a Blood Angels one.
I'm going to put that hashtag now, just because you said that.
Oh, God.
Amazing. So that was a lot of our hobby progress. Well, saying this, I didn't even talk about mine properly. So I think one of the most frustrating things I did in lockdown was the base for that Telemon Dreadnought I did. It was, I don't know if you've, listeners, if you've ever seen it, but the Telemon Dreadnought base is about 100 mil, and the ones that I'm using are all tiles, and so I had to individually highlight every single tile.
I really hope that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the most boring part of our podcast that we ever do, because that, Alex, was dreadful.
It's all right actually, because I use the same company that makes those bases. I use those on my sisters. So Alex and I are actually planning a spin-off tile painting podcast. So if anyone's interested, just email in and let us know, and you could have hours of that content.
Yeah, it's just us silently, podcast us silently edge highlighting endless tiles.
You'll renovate their kitchens or something with the tiles.
Oh my god, terrible. But yeah, so that was most of our hobby progress. Let's move on to our what's on the whiteboard behind me. Games played and our thoughts so far on 9th edition. So let's start off with the legal department. Adam, you've been playing a lot of Crusade at the moment, haven't you?
Yeah, so we are all based in London, and the London Wargaming Guild has been running a Crusade campaign, which I've been involved in, and Sandman, Ed's been in it as well. So it's been fantastic actually. It's a really good. I think when Crusade came out, there was perhaps a little bit of hesitancy about how it worked, and I know some people in the hobby are still, should we say, not fans or hesitant to start because it just looks very complicated. And it does involve a lot of bookkeeping. I would say it is more like maybe D&D, if people have played Dungeons and Dragons, keeping notes of how things level up. But actually, it's good fun. I mean, you can certainly abuse it, right? You can certainly. We have, we won't name any names, but we have seen examples of just really powering up characters, units with lots of the relics you can get, lots of the abilities that you can have on in the Crusade system. But actually it's a really good way of doing fluffy play. And I've had games where, because I'm using my sisters for the Crusade, and I had a game quite recently against a really good guy called Lewis, who was playing his Night Lords. And we essentially did the scenario, one of the Crusade missions in 9th is a sort of attacker-defender, where the attacker comes in and has to basically delete the objectives, and the defender has to defend them. And if you defend more than you lose, you win the game. Likewise, if the attacker destroys more, they win. And we happened to play it on a table which had sort of gothic looking terrain. It looked like a shrine, so he was like, right, you're going to be the defender because it looks like you're defending a shrine. I'm the Night Lords, I'm going to be the attacker. And it was really good fun. And there was like a fight between he had a Contemptor Dreadnought and like my Canoness, my Warlord, which was just quite epic. So it's a good way if you're into the narrative side, but you still actually want to, play the games and have a rule set that everybody can work off of. It's a really good way of doing it. So yeah, I think it's been good fun.
Interesting. I mean, Sandman, what's your experience of Crusade been so far?
Yeah, I've liked Crusade. It is good. I think kind of we've heard quite a lot about. I think online it will get better as the codexes come. Just because there's not a huge amount of personality, I feel, at the moment with a lot of the armies. Like, obviously, everyone pulls from the same relics.
Yeah.
There's not, like the kind of the classic one they previewed was the Space Marine going into the Dreadnought. That's really, really cool. Really interested to see how far you can push the Psychic Dreadnoughts, because it wasn't mentioned specifically for Blood Angel, so that will just be amazing if everyone can do stuff like that. Like, if you can kind of break the mechanics of the game in small ways here and there, which are just kind of fun and interesting, I think that's going to be amazing.
That's a big part of D&D, right? So that would fit. Yeah.
I mean, I'm living for the Canoness as a living saint. I mean, that'd be
amazing.
My god.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that would just be so cool. So I really like Crusade. There's definitely, like Adam said, there's definitely, you have to be careful. I think it works. The problem is, at a certain point, you might as well play with friends and just a normal campaign, because when you play with like an unlimited group of people, there are going to be people that view Crusade in different ways, and they're both fine, but you need to separate them. So one of them is, I'm going to play Crusade, and I want to take as many cool relics as I can on my incredibly powerful Warlord. Nothing wrong with that. Like, I love that. I think that if you want to do that, more power to you, but you probably shouldn't play against the guy that's rolled for every single single test. And you're like, right, so I've got +1 leadership on my lieutenant. That's really, really great. It just because
there's a mismatch.
That costs you the same amount of points. Everybody's got an I'm fluffy butt thing. I've got this really fluffy list, but then this guy does do 6 damage. That's kind of. I think that's just kind of friendly play generally when you open it up to a big group. It's like an experiment in game theory. I was saying the other day, like, it's like, I'm going to take a fluffy list, but if he brings one, then, so then everybody ends up just kind of like packing just a little bit into their list. And then,
well, I mean, this is the problem that the Fun and Fluff competition always has. Just the people who are like, the majority of people who come to the Fun and Fluff competition is... well, you know what? Let's just explain what it is first. The Fun and Fluff competition is run in London by the London Wargaming Guild, and it has limitations on what you can bring in a list to encourage people to play very fluffy. By fluffy, we mean narrative. For example, I think for White Scars, you can have bikes as troops.
Blood Angels, you could have assault squads as troops.
That's just dirty.
Yeah,
and you
it wasn't back then. It might be a bit.
It
might be better.
Back then, it was like,
you write a narrative as well. There's sort of points given for having a narrative for your army that you bring along. But the issue is when, I think to Ed's point, when you make your narrative, I'm really good. That's my fluff.
My
I'm really powerful.
I've got a Smash Captain, and he is he's called
badass.
The Forge of Vulcan, and so he is toughness 5 and -1 to wound, and like got a 3-up in Vun, and like every single buff you can put on him. It's like, you can't really complain that's not narrative. Like, not many lists you can actually say would never happen in 40k. Like, there is you can call most things narrative.
Well,
like,
actually, no. There's one thing that's like a super egregious example of this. It's when you have like Gilliman in your list, but make your loyal 32 like company commander the warlord.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
He's the avenging son, but he's taking orders from Jeff over there. That's normal.
Lieutenant Jeff.
Yeah, he's all right. And I think that's true. And it's one again. It's about how you play the game, right? And it's about how you want to run your army. But yeah, there's definitely scope for abusing how the whole system works, right? I guess. And for anyone who is listening who knows anything about the history of Warhammer 40K and some of the codexes that have been around, I think people always joke about the Ultramarines and a chap called Matt Ward who wrote an Ultramarines codex, who was a guy who worked at Games Workshop, and that is the source, I think, of the Ultramarines chapter getting a lot of the sort of abuse that they sometimes get in the hobby, is that he effectively did this and they were just the best. Everything they did, they were the best. And the classic line that's given is that their chapter master, it was described, I think, in an interview with him in White Dwarf, the Warhammer magazine, as the spiritual liege of all the Space Marines. So obviously everybody who plays any other chapter is always like, oh god, let's not go back to that.
I also feel like we need to put in as well, just in case it didn't come up, is that Fun and Fluff is like the best tournament.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It was my fourth ever game of Warhammer. Right,
It was a tournament.
It was a tournament, but I, you know what? The thought process was I met you like probably a couple weeks before it. I'd spoken to you on Discord.
Yeah, we met through the DZTV Discord.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna go play this tournament because it's a really good way to get a few games in and learn how to play the game.
TV? You never.
Yeah, I'm pretty subtle about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
We mentioned Winters.
yeah.
Who's that?
I hate you guys.
I like how I said that when we actually started off the podcast. We're taking a mick out of me even knowing Winters.
Yeah, I know.
What was I saying? Yeah, so it was my fourth game, and then I played. Well, first I met a load of cool people, and then that's how I found out about Bale Cafe.
I met you guys.
they met you guys, and I've regretted it ever since. But it was that tournament was a fantastic way to just learn and meet new people to play the game. I played Necrons for the first time, which wasn't fun. This is apparently just appearing in front of me first turn and going, "Hi, I'm going to kill you," and they're like, "Oh, that's a thing."
A teleport will get you.
Yeah. Lesson learned. Still lose to it now.
But yeah, it's Fun and Fluff is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Once this Nurgle's rot that we're all suffering with at the moment is past, hopefully the LWG can get that up and running again, because yes, and people do bring, we're being quite salty and quite negative about some of the bad side of it, but people do bring some genuinely hilarious, just have fun with it armies. So I'll give a quick shout out to a chap called Jack Buckley, who's part of the London Wargaming Guild, and I played him. And Fun and Fluff was actually my first tournament, and he had a Tau army. And you're instantly thinking, okay, not that fluffy. Tau, they're very good in 8th. It was all crew.
Yeah,
it was all crew.
Did he bring all crew?
Yeah, I played him as well.
He had all crew, and I think one broadside was his, and a couple of the Forge World like drones that the flying,
really flyer ones.
Yeah, and that was the only sort of slightly tougher bit of his army. The rest of it was just crew.
Jesus,
which is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like
and that was the most fun game I had because he's such a nice guy and it was such a laugh.
Such a good guy. I mean, I played him. I think in the previous Fun and Fluff, and he brought an entire Khorne demon army, and we just had one of the best games ever, honestly. And I felt really bad because Custodies versus Khorne demons is a really, really bad matchup for Khorne demons because it's like walking into a blender. But I think that's a good opponent can change your entire perception of a game, even if you're losing really, really badly.
For sure.
I think some of the best games I've had are games that I've probably lost just because my opponent was so good.
That's because you lose most of the time, mate.
Custodians weren't that good in 8. So
it's one of those games where Trajan Valoris got punched in the face by a Calgar.
I hate you. Jesus Christ.
He is the liege lord.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
Spiritual liege.
3 different attempts at killing him and still didn't work.
Could not believe it. So basically, I had a game against Big Dick Rich. And
I was only a small one then.
Basically, I took my
stuff over there.
I took my Trajan Valoris against the Ultramarines, and his Calgar was there. And I thought, oh yeah, the Captain General of the Custodies can obviously take just the simple chapter master of the Ultramarines. Yeah, no, he can't, like at all.
But that was a laugh though, because by that point the game had pretty much gone my
Oh
way.
yeah, I think I only had Trajan
Marines
left.
are really strong, so I managed to get all my remaining troops to do a little circle around the little fight that was happening.
It's just a duel.
It was a duel.
But
It was
literally, I
awesome.
couldn't believe it. So Trajan has this ability that he can fight twice. So I fought once, took some damage, end of the fight phase, fought again. Then Trajan gets killed, and I was just like, right, I've got like a 1 or 2 CP strat. He can fight when he dies. This will be it. Still couldn't kill Marnius Calgar. He
No.
fought 3 times and couldn't kill Marnius Calgar.
Well, he sat on the toilet for all those years in that model, so he was clearly he was building up the power.
It became
so.
Big Dick Calgar.
Yeah, he just slapped me with it.
Yeah, that was a fun game.
For you.
You did get your revenge not that long ago though.
That's true. Wait, when was the last time we played?
It was we did the narrative campaign in the carpentry workshop,
Yes.
and then I surrounded you, and then you did the thing with your what is it? The custodians could boost your bike captain to like pile away.
Yeah, so custodians now have this this ability which you can put on your captain, on your shield captains, and it's just called Unstoppable Destroyer, and it's the coolest name I've ever heard for anything. And it's basically that you can advance into combat, fight, and then fuck off, and you can't be touched.
Yeah, I got that was
Yeah.
that was emotional.
It's the best thing ever. I love it.
But that was one of the things of the Iron Hands Leviathan, was it could consolidate out
Exactly.
of combat. So
Although with Iron Hands, it was also the thing that you could pass off wounds, and
yes,
Yeah, and you had a
That
feel
wasn't
no
it.
pain.
That
You had like
That was
you had a
the-
feel no pain, and you could pass off wounds, and the way the abuse on that was the way it worked was you passed off the wounds after you'd failed the feel no pain. Like so you
Oh
had
my God.
you had like a whole range of someone's going to call me out as being wrong on that, but I'm fairly sure that's right. You basically had a whole series of layers to get through, and even then you could just go, oh okay, well now one of my Marines is dead, and then you bring an apothecary with them, and he picks them up again. So that was one example where Games Workshop had to just change the rules pretty dramatically because that list just was horrible.
Jesus.
Well, I guess that can continue the conversation because am I the only person who's played a tournament so far in 9th?
Oh yeah.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
When I say played, I mean lost a tournament horribly. in 9th. 3 games, 3 losses. But it was my first tournament playing with the Blood Angels, which was a lot of fun because Ultramarines is a lot point and click. Blood Angels is more being proactive. The assault phase is so much fun, and I kind of learned a lot from it. But the only thing I can really say from the big difference from 8th is the biggest change in 9th to me with the gameplay is obviously all about terrain. And like the minuses to here, and you know how that all plays. But then the tournament, I didn't really feel like it came up much.
Really?
Yeah.
well, it depends on there's not a huge amount of terrain there is the thing. I think it depends on the place.
Yeah, and I
you're
also
at.
feel like because it's also limited how much. Yeah, also one limited how much the terrain is, but then there's also the marking what the terrain bits are and how they work with everyone before the game. And I just didn't feel like that came up. Still did. That's not an excuse for me losing. It's just horrible play. But
I mean, who were your opponents?
so the first game was the Blood Angels v Blood Angels.
Oh no.
But so my list was, I felt like I bought a balanced kind of list. So I had, I say balanced, but I had some Eradicators, bikes, but obviously Blood Angels v Blood Angels, I think kind of feel like it's going to, who goes first and hits each other first wins.
Yeah.
And he had a lot, he had 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard and Death Company, and I just got punched in the face really hard. Second game I played against Ultramarines.
Okay.
So
So just a gun line then.
yeah, and difficult to charge with their strats. And even though I played them, I was having a pretty tough week that week, and I wasn't really thinking things through. And then I decided to charge, and then I was like, oh god, he's going to do the one where they 3 units Overwatch, and I don't know why I didn't see that coming. And then it was still quite a close game, and then it kind of pulled away to the end. He was quite a difficult guy to play against. Just was a bit of a language barrier.
Oh, okay.
But it was a good game, and then the last game was really fun. It was Fabius Bale, and like
Creations of Bile.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that was a really fun game. Really close. There was a point in it at the end, so he managed to get a win.
How do Creations of Bile play? Are they quite ranged? Is it a close combat army?
So it was a mix, definitely a mixed list. So you had is it the Possessed Bomb, like Greater Possessed. So they
Okay.
were just fighting my Blade Guard vets the whole entire game. They would just swing at each other, and neither of them would die. And obviously they have like a lot more models, so they were just basically punching the crap out of each other. Bile just hid in a corner and just buffed all this stuff. His list was quite mixed, but then I don't think me and him either bought particularly competitive lists. We just bought a list to have a laugh, and that game was just a real laugh, and that was the best game I had.
Because you weren't being annihilated.
No, yeah, that's true. And even with the support from you guys, it was still emotional.
Yeah, I think your opponent can make a game. I mean, we said it once already. I mean, I had not a tournament in 9th, but back in 8th. Again, we're going to mention them a million times, but London Wargaming Guild run something called Winter Warfare, which is their sort of competitive tournament, or one of their competitive tournaments in the winter, cunningly named. And I played a guy there called Daniel, who had an absolutely amazing army of Thousand Suns and Zinch Demons, including one of the most beautifully painted Lords of Change I've ever seen. I think it actually won.
I think it won
best model. Yeah.
So
I felt bad when I eventually killed it. But yeah.
Did you know?
I just had to get. Well, it was more I had to get rid of it because it was scaring the living daylights out of me. But yeah, it was a really good game. It was just good fun, and there were like a couple of points in it. And again, a loss for me, but absolutely loved it and had a great time. So I think opponent definitely makes the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is one thing I try and do. I think I did a post about this on Instagram a while ago. Like, I try and be a good opponent at all times, even if I'm taking a Telemon.
Well, I think
I can see that looking.
Rich, what do you think? Good opponent?
so I think in terms of being a good opponent, does it? I can't remember what I was saying. I think I was saying it to you, the Sandman. It depends on the kind of context the game's in, right? So if you're playing a competitive game, the gotcha moment comes up, right? And in a competitive game, I'm not going to tell you to not do something because I'm going to activate a strat, because you obviously, a competitive game, you want to win. But if I'm playing just a generic fun game with someone, and I did it with you not that long ago, when you consolidated when you were within 6 inches, and I could heroically intervene with a strat, and I was like, you don't want to do that because that's something I can do.
Yeah, exactly.
And then in a friendly game, you kind of warn them, right? Because if the gotcha mate just ruins the game, and it kind of gives you a bit of a bitter taste,
it
right?
gives you the feel bads.
Especially, I think as well as in a friendly game. Also, if you're in a practice game, there's not really any point.
No.
Like the amount of times that you see like things like battle reports. When I watch a battle report, as sometimes as exciting as it is to see two minds face off, I kind of want to know how the armies do. And so when the game ends, because one guy is like, oh, forgot I could do that. Oh, well, that's all right. I'm going to learn from my mistake. And then that's the game. It's like, but now I don't know. Like, and so when you're practicing against your friends, if you do, like, if I'm playing Custodes, and I'm like, okay, Alex doesn't know that, I can snipe his character from here. And then I snipe his character and win. Then when I play Custodes the next time and I lose because my opponent is aware, it's like, oh, it was just a waste of a game.
You can't rely on those gotcha moments.
You can't.
No, because the best players in a tournament will know your army as well as knowing their own.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what is funny though. It does raise an interesting thing. I'm going to take it back to Genestealer Cults because I love Genestealer Cults.
This is going to be about fucking hay bales again.
I throw hay at them.
The difference between hay and straw. So the thing is about Genestealer Cult is like, whilst I and we've talked about it quite a lot, Rich, where it's like the gotcha moments, they shouldn't come up that much in 40k. And I mean, like Brian Pullen gave a great example. I think I was watching Tables of Titans. He said how swooping dive, you as a Custodes player, you should never use that against your friends. Like, it should never come up because you should be like, just so you know,
I can charge in your turn.
I can charge your turn, right? And like, for example,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Let me explain that strat.
I'm playing you next week. My Blood Angels. That's scary.
I saw that, and then I asked Alex how many times he'd used it, and he was like, about 3.
So yeah, for those who don't know, stooping dive is a Custodes strat. Basically what it does is you can charge Custodes jet bikes in your opponent's turn, and you fight before all other units. It's horrendously powerful.
I'm just going to point my Judicia at you.
Sorry, so with Genestealer Cult, the funny thing is like, because they have they're such a unique army, and also because of the fact that people don't know them. I've played 4 games in 8th. Well, I've played a bunch of games in 8th, but 4 at 2,000 points.
You mean 9th?
9th, that's the one. It's tough adding this one. So I played 4 games in 9th, and none of my opponents had played Genestealer Cults before. Not a single one. And so it became this really weird thing I found, because it was like, I am going to tell them as much stuff as possible, but I don't want to literally play their army. So a classic one is every single one of them had the exact same advice from their friends which I'm sure everybody's going to jump to as soon as I mention Genestealer Cult, which is give them first turn if you win that roll off.
Yes.
Everybody does that. The thing is, and I don't want to play their armies for them, but it's like that is often true. It is not always true. So I have, and as most Genestealer Cult armies do now, I have a lot of vehicles in my list. I cannot hide 9 vehicles depend on the deployment phase in once I've deployed. So you're probably going to be able to kill something anyway. If there was loads of terrain, absolutely give me first turn, because I'm probably going to be able. I'll move the blips. I can move 4 blips.
Well, this is an interesting thing. How does that? What is that mechanic with the blips? How does that work?
So the way Genestealer Cults, it's probably worth explaining because lots of people just haven't played them.
Exactly.
So the way Genestealer Cults work is if you play a pure Genestealer Cult army, so it doesn't work with the Brood Brothers, or if you Super Tyranids, those units can't do it. But if you play your Genestealer Cult units, you don't deploy. You place a number of blips equal to the number of units that you have.
And it's literally just like a little marker. That you
so I actually use sheep to represent mine because they're farmers.
Oh, because they're farmers.
Yeah, I'm so cool.
You've been serious?
And yeah, that's true.
That's brilliant.
So you place blips, then you have to declare what's in transports before, and in fact everybody does now, but you have to declare what's in deep strike before you deploy. And then if I go first, then I just reveal where the blips are, deploy my things, and I move. And if you go first, I actually reveal where the things are after you've moved. So it's incredibly powerful. So if there is a big line of sight blocking terrain, I can deploy things like, say, my vehicles. If it's behind something line of sight blocking, then yes, you can't shoot them. And on top of that, so you can deploy 3 extra blips for a stratagem. You can move 3 blips for a stratagem, and you can move 1 for free with the Nexus. And additionally, anything that isn't like a vehicle, you can also spend a CP, and you can actually, instead of deploying them, put them into deep strike. So that is the kind of main thing. That's the most powerful.
Sounds like shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean it's shenanigans.
I mean,
to the core. But this is the thing. Because people don't play it and never see it, it sounds incredibly powerful, and it is. But this is the thing. Like, yeah, when I've got 9 vehicles on the board, and if there's not a massive amount of terrain, still take first turn, because I'm also a deep striking army. So if you give me first turn, I've also got that ability to come in really hard. I'll get to shoot you first, and I get to deep strike, and I'll alpha strike you. So it's a weird one. And so, for example, with the gotchas, another example is so I have multiple characters that can target other characters. I have loads of kind of like weird stratagems that can do like shenanigan-y stuff, and it's like it becomes quite funny because I don't want to actually play people's army for them, but it can get to a point where I'm literally like, I wouldn't do that. Don't put him there, because it becomes quite funny. And yeah, so like a lot of people just aren't familiar with them. So like, I don't have in my particular list, and I think probably most Genestealer Cult lists is probably similar at the moment, where I don't have a huge combat element because, or coming in from deep strike, I should say, and the amount of people that just absolutely screen their backfield. The acolytes coming in are perfectly happy chomping through any screens. So that people. I don't know. Yeah, there are kind of big mistakes people make when I've played them, which has actually probably been the big advantage I've had.
Yeah, I mean,
just don't see them.
I get a similar thing with Custodies at the moment, because our supplement for Psychic Awakening came out during lockdown. So of course, as soon as it came out, no one had played against it, so no one really learned what it did. And now that I'm playing people, I literally have to go through all the War of the Spider strats and say, I can do all of these things, because every single one of them is just amazing.
I think the opposite happened with Tau. Whereas like, so Tau always like you say came out. Your supplement came out in lockdown. Kind of most of them did, or didn't really get a chance to be tried. So like the Farsight stuff was really hyped up, and a lot of people were like, "This is going to be the new way to play Tau." And obviously when the shield drones went up, quite rightly, I think people said that the shield drone is dead. But like I think people way overrated the Farsight builds, and now they've obviously done awful. Like they are one of the worst armies in the game statistically. And it was just because it's really funny what happens when things come out and people can't test them. Because it was
like just reading it, going, that sounds
like,
that
sounds great.
Tau hit on 3s and hit on 4s in combat. That's going to be incredibly powerful. It's like, but like Like,
Is it?
we have Space Marines in the meta. Like,
Yeah.
Space Iron Hands still
Death Guard.
exist.
Like, well, what do you think? Like, how is this going to play? It just doesn't cut the mustard.
Yeah, I think there is that lag where people have been playing. Talking about lockdown, people have been playing a lot of tabletop simulator, like doing it online, and it is quite interesting because you listen to other podcasts, you listen to sort of battle reports, and people are like, "Oh yes, I played this army on tabletop simulator, and I won a league on tabletops," and they come and play it in the real world. Now that we kind of can a little bit more, I guess, and it doesn't do well, like Tau.
When you don't have the data, like, because Goonhammer and what's the
40k stats center.
Yeah, no, what's the kittens one?
Kittens.
What?
Yeah, so many kittens.
Is this another one of your weird bottling websites you use for Genestealer Cults?
Hashtag
Anyway,
Dark Angels.
yeah. But anyway, there are a bunch of really good stat centers for 40k stats, and it's the only way to actually know. But there's been so much guessing and trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
With ninth, especially with 9th edition.
And the problem with the stats as well is they're all based on competition results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Which
isn't the
there have been
example
bugger all.
so when I guess lockdown started easing the first time and tournaments could happen, everybody was going AdMech are going to be the army to beat.
Yeah,
They're going to be the best.
True,
and then
actually.
and then now people are talking about things like demons are quite good if they're played correctly, and there's obviously Custodes, and
I'll tell you
there's
what,
the Death Guard, and I see
Harlequins
Marines
too.
still, and Harlequins. Yeah, that's they're really strong.
And I'll tell you what, because I like you, Adam, and I watch and listen to a lot of 40k stuff, and like people didn't jump to salamanders at all.
No.
Some people called it early, but like loads of people were like Ultramarines. That's where it's at,
True.
and why and they're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad, but like salamanders are just a bit ridiculous.
Well, the funniest thing is actually, like, if you look at the results that are coming out, there was I was listening to one of these. I think it was 40k Stats Center, which is a very good other podcast we'd recommend.
Falcon, you hearing that?
Yeah. But they made the point that the salamanders have done really, really well. Like, they've been incredible. Their win rate. I mean, it's I think Iron Hands or worse than Iron Hands levels when they were super powerful.
Jeez.
But even now, there's been a bit of a leveling off because around what's happened is obviously really good players take it, win tournaments. More people copy the list, don't do as well. The good players who are still using it are doing still might
Smashing
be winning,
people.
but the overall percentage for the army comes down. And then we've now got really good players are moving on to demons or moving on to these other armies. So
Yeah.
it is more in flux.
It's
But
like,
as more people
you
play
also-
it, people will adjust their armies to play it, and then you'll find that's the
Also,
meta.
specifically with Marines, there was a problem with the data in that the data had to be adjusted for playing against non-Marine factions because Marines were like, I think it was like 56% of armies in the game, and so like when they had a 53% win rate, it was like, oh, that's quite good. But then that was like a 60-something% win rate against anything that wasn't Marines. So yeah, as well as poorer players taking it, it's like also what happens when you don't play an army that's equally silly. Like that's the big problem. It's like if the really nice thing about Ninth, which we are giving thoughts on Ninth, is like it is far more balanced. Like I say, I really don't mind taking Genestealer Cult in Ninth because you can have a mathematical disadvantage, but like the game itself is way more balanced, so you definitely feel like have a much worse chance. But compared to in like a tournament, it's like when it's like I suspect some of the worst armies in the game, which I think just by coincidence are mine, are like Tau and Genestealer Cult, and I think
Astra Militarum, I would say.
yeah,
Astra Militarum. I think statistically at the moment, Astra Militarum have like a 30% win rate.
Yeah.
Which is just awful.
yeah,
Their
and
troops
it's like
just die.
that's just a
But
bit
they got cool
demoralising.
tanks.
With no invulnerable saves.
I think
So they just die.
Astra Militarum, because they didn't have a terrible Psychic Awakening. Like the Tankay stuff was really good. They got some really great stratagems, but I think they're kind of just not built for Ninth. Like obviously,
No, the mechanics of the game massively.
yeah,
disadvantaged.
Bullgrin were like the thing everyone kind of jumped to, but Bullgrin
They just hit on
are
fours.
not the best in the world at what Bullgrin do. Like like there are so many amazing Terminator units that you would take
Yeah.
every day of the week.
Or just Death Guard.
Yeah,
just any
Death
Death
Guard.
Guard.
But yeah, I
So
mean,
it's
this is
like,
the thing. Like, if we look at, I think, Sandman, this is something that we were talking about when Ninth came out, and we were looking at Custodes. Custodes, the mechanics of how the army is built, just seem built for Ninth.
Yes.
Because very strong, very tough troops.
Yeah, so yeah,
And everything's opposite.
There's also a thing, and this is the thing with Death Guard also, where it's like they don't care about the moving that far. So obviously with the board getting smaller, even though you start roughly the same amount of distance away from each other, you just need to get to the center of the board, and then you can just sit there and rack up points. Additionally, a really interesting about Custodes, I can't remember where I heard this, so this isn't, I didn't come up with this, but the idea of like Custodes don't lose anything from actions, because they don't really care about losing their shooting, because their shooting was never particularly impressive.
That's so true.
So they're happy to just investigate those sites, or whatever it's going to be, because they're happy just sitting in the middle of the board and waiting to get charged.
I wonder what they investigate the sites for.
Well, you don't
How to get off terror? Or?
I mean, you don't how to oil up for the Emperor, and then eventually do something. No, but I think you don't have to be. I think one of the big differences in 9th, as well as that helps armies like Custodes and like Death Guard. You actually don't need to be as killy. So 8th was very much about kill. Even if you weren't doing kill points, quite a lot of the time you still had to go out and actually kill stuff.
Yeah.
Especially first turn was a big deal, and people still talk about first turn being a big deal in 9th. But an army like the Death Guard, because they are resilient, disgustingly so, some might say. They are. Sorry, that was terrible. They're not bothered about actually going out and killing stuff. They can kind of take a hit, and as Ed says, like slowly move up, take the middle of the board, and then just sit there and go, okay, come and knock me off of it. Like, I don't need to kill your stuff. I'm just going to build up points.
I mean, this was the thing with Custodes. People look at the individual stats of a custodian model and they're like, oh wow, that's super powerful, and they forget that there's an exponential decrease in their killing power as the game goes on, because every model is such a large percentage of like your killing potential.
That's not what exponential means.
Well, no, like it's an exponential drop off.
No, it's a linear drop off.
It feels exponential.
This may be edited out.
No, but okay, it feels exponential, because if you're losing like 2 guys from a squad, you've gone from like 9 attacks to 3.
So actually, interestingly, we might cut this, but exponentially, Custodes don't suffer like other armies do. So we, like Marines, we might lose exponentially, because whilst I'll kill an aggressor turn 1, another aggressor turn 2, a squad of aggressors, another squad of aggressors, turn 3 I've killed his chapter master, and so the drop is far greater from turn 3 down.
Whereas because of the loss of rerolls.
Exactly. So that's.
I definitely find just that topic of how, because what Marines good is the efficiency, right? As soon as you kill one of those characters, that's where. Apart from obviously, I say it's the efficiency. Every single one of their models and their units is just strong, right? But once you start getting rid of those characters, that's where. Particularly, I find when playing Ultramarines that I really begin to suffer, and then that drop off really happens.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's also funny to address as well. Like things about people got wrong at the start of the 9th was combat. Like, I mean, it can't have been just me. I saw a horrendous amount of anger on the internet at the combat phase being dead. And it is so far from dead. It's ridiculous.
My Repentia would like to have a word with anyone who thinks combat is dead.
I really wish I want to just start adding people that get and then just message them 3 months later, because it was so bonkers that it wasn't even the fact that obviously not all the rules have come out, so it was particularly dumb, but like half the rules that have come out were things like, we've nerfed Overwatch and we've made the board smaller, and it was like, combat is dead. It's like,
is it so?
Like, ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah. It's even more of a shooting game.
Yeah.
And there's been released of models where that just make your units fight last now, and that's across not just one army.
Yeah, that ability is. It's being used more because it's so much more powerful, because combat is a bigger thing, but also it's coming up way more.
Yeah, but it's creating a lot more arguments and debates of what it means. Like,
it is tough to understand that, because I remember playing.
Love it.
That's why we've got legal over there.
Well, the funny thing is, it's like in the book, the rule book, they've in the difficult rules section. It's like any rule that is giving this idea means this, right? But it's like. But the thing is,
don't word it that way.
These rules are written so differently. I actually cannot tell if they all mean the same thing. So, for example, this unit cannot be selected to fight is different to this unit fights last.
Yeah.
They mean, because cannot be selected to fight tells me that I cannot interrupt.
But the Judicia says this unit cannot fight until all other eligible units have fought.
Right.
Which then makes it even more like, what the...
I mean, it will be interesting to see when the Marine Codex comes out how the wording has changed, if it's changed at all.
And the Silent King's getting it, isn't he?
Is he?
He is getting it, I believe.
I know the Foul Blightspawn for the Death Guard. I use 2 of them in my sort of like competitive list because they're not only are they hilarious. I mean, it's a guy with a fire hose that shoots sludge at you, right? I mean,
that guy.
Scared what you were going to say.
Yeah. No, keep it PG. But he has this kind of like plague spewer or sprayer, I think it's called. It's got like
powerful flamer, basically.
Yeah. And you roll for that. You can roll. There's a stratagem where you can extend the range. You can, or a couple of stratagems. One where you extend the range. One where you re-roll the strength basically of it, and it does like flat 3 damage. So you can end up with like a strength 12 auto hitting flamer that does flat 3 damage, which is crazy. But on the fight first thing, he has an aura which is called revolting stench. I think off the top of my head,
God,
which does the same thing, right?
It
Which
smells
stops
so
you fighting.
bad you don't want to fight.
Yeah, basically he is so
brilliant.
smelly you don't want to fight. But again, it's one of those abilities where it's just so useful in 9th because he's got like a 7-inch aura around him as well. Because again, Death Guard, Nurgle's number is 7. They love things that are 7 units of Plague Marines, whatever. So he does that and he's amazing for it. And people, again, it's one of these things where I think people forget because Death Guard were one of the early armies in 8th that came out, and then I think people didn't play them that much, and because they are so good in 9th, people are using them more. It's one of the things people forget. Like I mean, when I looked at the rules, I was like, oh wait, yeah, I forgot he does that. That's just a thing he has, an ability.
Yeah, there was a Tabletop Tactics report where they like realize mid-game just like how powerful that is. Like seriously, go and watch that battle report.
Which bat rep was it?
It's from about a month ago, and it's Bones playing the Death Guard, and like they literally like read it on camera, and they're like, yeah, it says he everyone else. It says they fight after everyone else, and they're like, so the spiders is literally spiders. They're like, so you get to fight before all of my guys, and he's like, yeah. I just realized, and it literally ends the bat report of just like, yeah, we need to get more of those guys.
Wait, so it's not just one. I don't want to clarify this. It's not just one model. It's one unit. It's everything.
Yeah. So he has a. I'll double check the rules in a second. But he has like a 7-inch. I think Ed's gonna quickly look it up. But it has like a 7-inch aura, and yeah, if anything within that basically fights last.
Wow.
So you use him. You sit him like next to some Plague Marines or some Blight Lord Terminators.
Strong, like that unit can't fight.
Well, also because he's got this ludicrous flamer gun as well, right? That if you roll reasonably well on it, and again there are cheap strats to re-roll, you can just dole out so much damage, and then whatever survives, it's fighting last.
Yeah, so it's enemy units that charge this turn and are within 7 inches of this model, so it's actually a little bit better range. At the start of the fight phase, are struck by the stench so foul that they falter, losing their impetus. Such a unit does not get to fight first in the fight phase, but can be chosen to fight like other units that did not charge.
Can I just say how much I hate Nurgle?
Oh, he's great. He just wants you to have a good time.
2020, to be fair.
He has royally screwed 2020, to be fair.
I mean, I think I'm just salty because I had a practice game against our friend AJ, and I've only lost 2 or 3 games in 9th so far out of
I'm really
12
grateful to AJ because you were a right cocky dick.
Oh,
yeah. I think
Custodies are unbeatable.
I think we were all on Team Nurgle for that one. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
As beautiful as your Shadow Keepers are.
I don't think I side with the coronavirus in this podcast, but
I'm just gonna say, for context, I'm not used to winning. Like Custodies.
No, you can't justify it.
Know
it. Come on. Because I keep very strict records of what my win-loss ratio is, and for
a color-coded Excel sheet for those wanting to know.
I'll have you know it's in Google Sheets.
Oh.
Actually, dickhead. But like it's one of those things that I'd always go into a game expecting every single game to be super hard. And Adam, this is. Legal department. This is why we've not played, because I was terrified of your Iron Hands.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to be blown off the board in turn 1.
Yeah, I mean they were point and click. I make no apology for them being a horrible point and click army, and I frankly feel bad about the fact I ever used them.
That's quite funny though, actually, because I was really interested in that game because it was just an interesting matchup. And Mortarion is actually quite a good counter.
My God,
because like even your Telemon, I think I did the math. It was like, so you could do like 4 wounds a turn, which Mortarion can take,
Yeah.
and you don't have much other shooting, so Mortarion can walk into combat quite freely, and then
Yeah.
the mortal wounds against you are just
Mortal
amazing.
wounds against
Yeah.
Custodes
You don't
are
even get to feel no
horrendous.
pain.
Yeah, you don't get to feel no pain. And the
Um,
thing is, like, basically, what for you guys who weren't there, basically what happened was I had my Telemon Dreadnought, 8 or 9 large Terminators, and a few jetbikes and stuff. So quite a strong. That's basically what competitive Custodes lists look like at the moment. And I thought to myself, okay, everyone says Mortarion's not actually that strong. That'll be fine. Oh my god, he killed literally half my army by himself.
Yeah. Well, he's not that strong because you can shoot him, and he's like turn
Yeah.
1, he's toughness 7 with a 4-up save.
He
Yes.
gets
So it's
quite
like-
a few. Look, we've got a lot of shenanigans with his ways attacks, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
I noticed.
There's a load of attacks. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then obviously you.
And
felt them.
he's got the lantern, the gun is actually quite good as
Yeah.
well.
So the
But
lantern
did he bring
didn't
him on
do-
from reserve?
No,
AJ?
no. Deployed him on the board.
Well, I played the same list actually, and he did then. But like that's the thing. So we talk.
Did
he
you beat
played
him?
me first, and then he played Alex, and I was like, and then he talked about should I bring him on from reserve? And I was like, well, you don't need to. Like you can just walk at Alex.
Yeah, literally. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what he did. He took the center of the board, and I thought, okay, it's fine. I'll charge a shield captain and 6 guardians. That should be enough to take him out, because that's actually a lot of damage.
Just his natural mortal wounds and blades. I believe I can't remember it because we looked this up when I played him. I can't remember because of the sweeping attack. It's like
The sweeping attack is
the
horrendous.
sweeping attack, but then when you have so they did FAQ I think for something similar where when you use Death to the False Emperor on the sweeping attack, then you get the extra attack. But can you then use that as another sweeping attack and get another 3? I believe you can.
I think
with
I think you can, because
Someone's done it.
on the
Yes.
flails, when you get an extra attack, you get an extra D3.
Yeah,
So
but it's-
and then blades at the top of that. That's like more. He's doing so many more wounds.
Yeah,
to you,
like
so,
his attacks exploded on 6s into like 3 more attacks.
yeah.
It was
that's
horrendous.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And like, even with a 3-up invulnerable save, because I have the shields in those guardian squads and the relic on the shield captain, he just tore through them. Like, just walked.
Because you just drown them in hits, right?
Exactly.
That's how you beat
That's how you
Custodes.
beat Custodes. Exactly. And on top of that, the mortal wounds, and on top of that, the shooting.
Yeah.
He just walked through. I think he killed 1,000 points by himself, easily.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Let's go.
So Sandman looked me dead in the eyes when he said that.
He's a Primarch. He needs to.
He
have
should
his
be
day.
really good, yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
I actually think, on a note like that, I find the Primarchs actually quite well balanced for 40k. Like they're not obviously because
Well,
it's one of
Mortarion isn't, but yeah.
No,
Not,
one game. That's the problem
I
with
played
40k. Is
against
people
Mortarion.
lose the one arm,
Yeah.
they're like it's broken.
It's actually
I
going to be
played
an
him
entire
twice,
episode
and he didn't
called
do
it.
anything because I had enough gun to shoot him.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Mortarion people.
Yeah, if you can shoot him, he'll die.
Yeah.
But as
I think,
Sandman says,
yeah.
you don't need to put him in strategic reserve because against Custodes, because they haven't got enough guns.
And that list was Mortarion, Magnus the Red, and 2 or 3 other knights. So there was plenty of target to shoot at.
Because I think Don Houston's doing a similar idea.
Oh,
Where
really?
he's just threat overload, where it's like he's taking 3 Playboy Scrawlers and 3 Defilers or something like that.
Jesus.
And it's like that's just
I
such
mean,
a cool list. Like
To be honest, this is the other thing I had.
no CP, but
Yeah, I mean, this
Yeah,
is the
no
other thing I
CP.
had with AJ's army. He had the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, and I did not have the firepower to take them out at all. I could not have touched them.
you kind of just they are. Yeah, they haven't changed. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they have changed. We've got 4 up in them now.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But,
I think that's the difference, right? In 8th, you could also get away with ignoring them because they didn't really want to move normally. There were people who did move them and use the plague sprayers more than the
Entropy cannons,
mortar.
the big
Yeah.
gun.
But now the entropy cannons are a thing because they can move and fire. You can give them the 4-up invuln. So now actually you've got a load of these incredibly tanky tanks rolling down the middle of the board to just get on the objectives and just go, okay, move me.
Yeah,
exactly.
The
I mean-
mortar is still awful.
Yeah. It's still bad.
It's so just it's just if it kills anything, you just like yay
Bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. I mean, sort of going on from that now, we've all played quite a lot of games, and we've got this is being recorded before the Space Marine Codex and the Necron Codex come out. One thing I think would be interesting to discuss is where do we want 9th edition to go? What changes do we want to see?
I would want Marines to get a nerf because, I mean, it's rich coming from me considering I play 2 Marine armies, but I would like to play less Marines.
Yeah, you know, I think
That sounds like a dick,
I think
right?
that's fair, and I think when you say that, a lot of people listening, you know, because our thousands of fans,
Yeah.
they will be like, you know, they'll be like, oh, another person saying that. But actually, I think the reason Marines being powerful is important is just because there's so many Marine armies, so it just exacerbates the problem. So like, Harlequins are amazing. Harlequins are arguably, like we said, better than Marines, but like. There's not many Harlequin armies.
Yeah.
No.
So
Who's
Marines being good is just a problem because it's
yeah.
like everybody.
And then the
has
mainstream
them.
army, the army that you first go in, because when you think 40k, what do you think?
Right, and also you
Marines.
get them for like if you could do any of the boxes. You
Yeah,
get
yeah.
Marines.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
my,
like,
I've
yeah.
only owned one box set, but Indominus is the box set first one I got. But the one before it, Dark Imperium. I don't think has there ever been a box set where Marines ever been in it?
Forgebane, yeah.
There was Necrons
That's
and
Yeah,
Blood-
yeah,
Blood- how long ago was that?
Yeah,
Blood of the
3
Phoenix.
years.
Blood, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
if
yeah.
anybody has been to Bad Moon Cafe recently, you will know they still have Blood of the Phoenix boxes on the shelf.
Yes, they were just bad.
yeah,
You know, it actually really upsets me because like it. No. The reason it upsets me, as someone
gonna
that
buy it?
as someone that predominantly plays Xenos, I feel like it was a really bad experiment by GW because what I worry about is that in their marketing department's head they were like, right, we push Marines because we know Marines sell. So let's try a Xenos box, and then it didn't sell, and I'm worried they've drawn the conclusion that it doesn't sell because people don't buy Xenos, and it's like no, it didn't sell because it was a terrible box.
The models in that box are beautiful as
Yeah,
well
exactly.
because they're all
no,
skulls.
except for the Falcon, which is like a
But when you're
20-year-old
paying,
model.
when
and a
you're paying
Viper.
for the named characters as well, it's like I kind of don't need 3 of these. Like, with Indomitus, if you bought 3 Indomitus, you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, like we forget how expensive Blood of the Phoenix was because Indomitus was what, like 120,
Yeah, 120 if you got it from
and it
GW
had
straight.
what 2,000 points, like 1,000 points of Necrons, 1,000 points of Marines,
It was
all
the,
new
it was
sculpts.
the biggest amount of points.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah.
And then if you compare that with Blood of the Phoenix, it probably total came to what 800 points and was like 180 quid.
Was it that
It
expensive?
was
it was-
180 quid.
It was something crazy.
No, it was. I don't think it was 180, but it was expensive for what it was. Like
Yeah,
if
and
you,
it
when
was
you added
definitely
up
more
when
expensive
you
than
added up
Indominus.
when you added up the models inside, like it didn't make, considering as well, like as you say, the Falcon
Yeah.
is a 25-year-old sculpt
Yeah.
and hasn't changed. I mean, it still sort of looks good, but you're getting. I mean, to be fair though, it's the same as if anyone out there plays. Well, I mean, if anyone out there plays the Sisters Battle, when you get the Adeptus Sororitas Rhino, this sort of like brand new model. What you actually get is you get the same old Rhino kit that's been knocking around since the early 90s, plus some nice sort of
It's
gubbins.
just someone's old Rhino.
Yeah. Plus some nice and don't get me wrong, it looks very cool when it's all put together, but it's just quite funny when you open this box and you just get this very old, really gappy sprue, because back then they could, they had to leave these huge spaces in it, so it's this vast sprue with like 2 giant bits on it, and that's it.
But I guess that one thing from this conversation to answer your original point was I think we're all looking forward to new models.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's part of the hobby. You're always looking.
Yeah, of course.
This is why.
The lion.
Yeah.
You know what?
Wait, you got him.
No, well, I don't. 30k doesn't count. Like,
But that's an interesting point. Like, what would people think about? Well, I guess that's a whole other topic probably. But
Ooh.
We'll
A Primarch coming back.
do a Chapter Master Valrak tribute episode. Where we just talk about
I won't
Primarchs
throw that
returning.
yet. But to continue on the point of what I'm looking forward to 9th is just with the new Marine Codex of Blood Angels being in it, it just means I get more access to more toys for the Blood Angels. So
That's true.
that's just something I'm looking forward to.
Actually, yeah. I mean, that's interesting you said, because I actually kind of felt like I was actually, I know this is controversial for Dark Angels players, but I was actually pretty chuffed with what the rules were in 8th edition. Sorry, and by that I mean Deathwing felt like Deathwing, and I don't mean they were good. Like, I don't think anybody took Deathwing to a tournament, but like at least I felt like when I put Deathwing on the table, they hit hard, they had great strats, they were incredibly powerful. And so that was really good. Ravenwing have always been really good. It looks like they're changing probably my biggest fault of Ravenwing, which is that they had to play in bubbles, and I hated that. And Greenwing were a bit shit. But
I think that's a problem with Marines in general.
yeah, so
Just the whole bubbling.
that's changing. So I think Marines sorry, and just bring it back to what we said. Like, I think a lot of Marines, I was pretty happy with where they were. Like, it's funny we talk about Marines as they are now, because like you go back like just over a year, and people are like Marines don't play like Marines. Marines are rubbish.
Yeah.
It's really not that long ago. It's absolutely crazy that we've flipped like this. 40k players never like thank GW, but we also just forget things so quickly. Like the majority of the time I've played 40k, people have just moaned about how bad Marines are.
Yeah,
I have to always stress that to people. So it's
I
like
think it's the whole time I played 40k.
so-
Marines have been really good.
exactly. So it's
I feel bad.
So to me, I kind of feel like I'm really happy with where Marines are. I think exactly you say, Alex. The auras, I want them to go as much in all of my armies. I want them to go as much as possible, even if they just become worse, just because you lose so much by stepping out of the bubble. You just lose so much.
There's no incentive to play dynamically.
Yeah, I think the example I give to people is actually Tau, where the Ghost Keel. So like the Ghost Keel is my favorite model in the Tau book, and when you take a Ghost Keel, the theory is you would put it up by your opponent's lines and harass the enemy. But this is the thing: if you drop it back near your the rest of your gun line, you then get Savior Protocols. If anybody charges that, then they can Overwatch with them. You benefit from the minuses to 1 and 2 to hit, which you can't do when you harass the enemy line. And also you benefit from the commander abilities. You have it's a unit that looks amazing, but then it seems like they just put no thought into how to actually get it to play. And it's there's like Ravenwing as well. I think I bought Outriders, and I now have 9 Outriders, and if I take them in my army, I can either put them in the bubble and they reroll hits, reroll 1 to wound, ignore cover, reroll charges, get a 4-up invuln, or I can put them out of the bubble
And get none of that.
So it's bubbles are a thing that hopefully we're going. By the time this comes out, we will know, I guess. So that's
we'll fully understand how the
So
core keyword works.
I'm probably going to be very happy by the time.
Well, the example they gave on the community website just gives it all. Why would a Space Marine captain stand next to a couple of executioners?
Yeah, literally.
I mean,
It's Tech Marine's job.
exactly. Yeah, it's a Tech Marine's job.
Yeah, it's also the consistency with Marines is just that's the real problem. Yeah, they're just so demoralising to play against sometimes.
Well, Adam, as the resident Necron player or beginning Necron player, what are you?
Yeah, another one. I'm like DJ Khaled, but with armies.
we forgot to mention that actually earlier on. But yeah, what are you?
I mean, I to be honest, I just love the look of the new to go back to new models, the Ophidian destroyers. These they're the ones that look like they. So if people remember the original wraiths, right? So obviously now we have the wraiths that are the Canoptech kind of guys with like the sort of blades or the whippy.
They're like the scorpion.
Yeah, the sort of flying scorpions, right? Well, back in the day, the original wraiths were basically a Necron body with kind of a big long tail coming out the spine, and they've reintroduced those as these like Ophidian destroyers, and they just look really cool. Obviously, everyone's going on about the Silent King, and his rules look slightly insane.
What's the one with all the pistol hands?
Oh, the Hexmark destroyer.
That
looks very cool. Yeah. So I mean, what I want to do is I want to get
so cool.
Yeah. So I want to get a Hexmark
cowboy hat on it.
Yeah, I want to get a Hexmark, and Ed's got a Killamorph, and I think we're gonna have a shootout because this town is not big enough for the both of us. Yeah. So
I am jealous, but also I think that's every single Necron model is so good.
Oh my god!
They're just all. It's even like all the Necron warriors. I love the ones with the scarabs coming out. I think they're just all so good.
They're a real joy to paint as well.
The blade effect so talking about the paint, the blade effect you're doing on your guys at the moment. Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, just what Rich is talking about is it's actually from a guy called Atom Smasher on YouTube, who I freely admit I shamelessly copied this from.
What's his face? What's his channel called? Tabletop Minions.
Tabletop Minions. That's it. And he had a really, what I think it looks really cool, but it's very quick, frankly. Scheme for Necrons involving a lot of dry brushing, use of some contrast paints, but then also using an airbrush to get layers on the blades so that they give like a really nice glowing effect. But it's actually, and I am not that skilled a painter. I'm especially not skilled with an airbrush, but it gives a really, really nice effect. And actually, after doing all the detail on the sisters, it's kind of nice to be doing something that's a bit simpler because, again, as we were saying earlier, sisters like Genestealer Cults are one of those armies where you can spend forever picking out every button and fleur-de-lis, and I do because I'm some sort of masochist, which is why my army is slowly being built because I'm painting all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who plays Custodes, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, with all your gems.
Oh my god, don't even.
I didn't know you played Custody.
But thinking about
We only
one.
started them for 9th edition.
Yeah,
Don't even say that. People will believe that shit.
yeah, it's true.
and
But no,
it
but
was Seed
thinking,
Studios, wasn't it?
Oh my god.
but thinking forward for 9th, again, just to go back to the Crusade rules. I mean, we've already seen, in the Space Marine previews, this thing about, you can have a character who becomes a dreadnought, which, if you're all about the fluff, is really cool. Like, you can have your captain get smashed around the face by a massive bloodthirster of Khorne, the big sort of flying demon thing, and then, oh wow, now he's back, he's in a dreadnought. And again, seeing how they implement that for all the different armies. Again, like I joked earlier about a sort of a living saint. Your Canoness in your sisters becomes a living saint like Celestine. That'd be so cool, right?
Demon princes. And
Demon princes, and I guess a Genestealer becoming, I don't know, and what they become,
Can
like
you
some
become
sort of
a patriarch?
patriarch or something.
No, what happens?
No.
The Patriarch sends the Genestealers away to kind of start their own cults and spread the cult.
Well, that'd be interesting then, what they do.
What would be cool? What would be really cool, just because a personal kind of Genestealer cult thing is there's a unit which a lot of people won't have know about. It's called the Hybrid Metamorph. And the Hybrid Metamorph is when the Hive Fleet approaches the planet, they start to mutate, and because as the Patriarch reconnects with the Hive Fleet, and it's all very thematic, and they start to mutate, and it's really, really cool. So I would like stuff based around that. I think that would be really, really cool. Is like kind of the end comes for the planet, and then the cult gets more and more powerful.
So talking about that, I remember we were talking about the narrative you're creating for your fucking ugly Patriarch model.
Beautiful.
Like, dude, you gotta explain to everyone.
You are not welcome on our
You gotta explain like the narrative you're building behind him, because it is just amazing.
Well, I think the narrative of 40K has some amazing stories. I think this amazing is going to be a stretch. But yes, I mean, I think so. My narrative is my primary patriarch is called Lord Avery, and Lord Avery is kind of a classic patriarch where he controls the cult, and they're actually so efficient as farmers that they remain largely undetected, just because the Inquisition, has no reason to stop by, and anyone that does get too close can get taken care of. But before Lord Avery arrived, there was actually a cult there already, and the cult was run by a patriarch called Spud. And Spud was not the best patriarch. He had a primus, and then he had a couple of cult attendants. But yeah, he hadn't really kind of spread the word of the Foran Emperor and the Star Gods. So yeah, things weren't going so well, and the Primus actually hated him, which should he was that bad. He hadn't even like properly hypnotized the Primus, and so the Primus actually told him that Spud was a name that meant like, oh, great and glorious leader, but actually, as we know, it just means potato. And so he wears the name Spud with like such pride. And
I'm dying.
and like so he'll constantly and so like when Lord Avery came, he was pretty disgusted, and like I say, it shouldn't happen that you get a second patriarch.
Come up with this?
You shouldn't get a second patriarch. There should just be one, and then the other Genestealers would kind of support it. But Spud was so shit that Lord Avery actually still grew and became the patriarch that we have today, and so Lord Avery basically runs the shop, and he's made everything so much better. But Spud, they kind of like placate Spud. They help him think that he's still in charge, and
that should be made like proper legit.
Yeah.
That's so basically, you've got a patriarch who was so incompetent that another patriarch evolved to replace him.
Yeah. The only thing is, I don't even know why Lord Avery hasn't killed him. I actually don't know. One day we'll find out. I guess.
That's going to be built into the narrative somewhere.
Yeah. Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
That genuinely, I love hearing stories like that. Fantastic. Okay, I think that's where we can wrap it up. That was the first ever Conclave podcast. I've been Quipster.
I've been Rich. Big Rich,
Big
Rez,
Rich.
whatever you want to call me.
There we go.
I've been the Sandman.
And I'll be in the legal department.
Excellent. Thank you guys for listening, and hope you enjoyed it.